Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mooneagle Academy. Today we're going to be talking about disinformation. Now you might say, why are you talking about disinformation on your channel, Mooneagle? What's gotten into that? Well, I view disinformation as a form of spiritual warfare. And that's very serious. And I'm not going to point out individual examples. I'm going to point out trends, the effects this has on us, and the effects it has on our society as well. So one of the reasons why disinformation is so damaging is because we build our identities around our belief structures. Not only just about ourselves, but also about the world. So particularly if you have a beliefs that has been fed to you that certain people are wrong or shouldn't exist, and you happen to fall into that category, that can damage your sense of self, your sense of esteem, your sense of worthiness. It can make it impossible for you to function in society. So that's just on the very personal level. If you don't fall into that, it's still dangerous. And the reason being, when we are purposely lied to and manipulated, it does more harm than just mislead, or make us make bad decisions. Once we've taken in that disinformation, that lie, depending on how much we integrate it with our core self, it can infect our spirit in a way and make it very difficult for us to truly be ourselves. It can make it impossible for us to see the world clearly. Our paradigms really filter our experiences. So we may miss opportunities, we may be led into danger, we may make the world more dangerous for other people. Disinformation is often used to sow fear and anger, and usually against a group that has been designated as a scapegoat for whatever problems there are in society. Now, once we are worked up, once we're angry or afraid, it shuts down our higher brain functions, which means if we do find ourselves in a problem, it's that much more difficult for us to think of ways to solve that problem. So it shuts down our ability to reason. It shuts down our ability to think and solve problems, which leads us to the more ancient parts of the brain, which are more about survival mechanisms, and these are usually, mammalian or reptilian functions in the brain. And I'm sure you know some lovely mammals, but you also know that if they're too excited, they can, react violently. So a lot of times disinformation will lead to violent acts. And I do have notes. I had to make notes for this because it's a big topic. Disinformation is very insidious. It poisons our relationships with others. It can make it impossible for us to connect with one another, even if we might otherwise be friends. And, from a societal level, it makes it impossible to have society, because when there is no common agreement over facts and truth, there can be no coming together, even in crisis. And we've seen this in the past few years where we've had major crises and we have not had the collective action we needed to mitigate those factors. And because of that, more people suffered than they needed to. So those are my main points about disinformation. And people might say, stay in your lane, Mooneagle. Don't talk about this. I think it's very important for me to talk about this. We used to say we're living in the information age. Well, now in the last, decade or so, with the advent of social media, we're now living in the age of disinformation. Um, and that has its own pitfalls and terrors. And then we haven't even added into, the AI factor of this, where we have manufactured with algorithms information that it didn't even come out of a human being. And so there are pitfalls. There are people who have died following, written AI-written guides because they thought they were, being written by an expert, but they weren't. And that's just this. We're just scratching the surface on the damage that this can do. So you're going to have to do a little bit of extra work to verify the information that's being fed to you, and particularly if it scratches that emotional itch that you want it to be true. And this happens for me as well, where I'm like, oh, that seems right. That confirms what I already believe. This is imperative that we start to take control. When we take control of what we take into ourselves, we can realign our identities around what is more true. And when we learn more, we should hopefully be able to adjust. So what are some of the ways that you can maybe not be taken in, maybe not build your identity around these things? I would say specifics are usually a problem. But if you build your identity around ideas like compassion, doing what you feel like is the right thing to help the most, or, trying not to do harm, kindness, all these, more abstract principles, generosity, kindness, altruism, then those other pieces of disinformation have less to stick to. And if you've built your identity around these abstract constants, you're able to sort of shift and move and change and evolve with whatever new true information comes your way. So I hope you find this helpful. Let me know what you think. Let me know if anything I've left out that you think is important in the comments. If there is enough, I might do a follow-up video on this. And always, I would like to thank my Patreon supporters. They make this channel possible. Thank you so much. If you'd like to become part of my community of support, there'll be links down below. If you just want to leave a one-time donation, there'll be a PayPal link. And if you want to work with me privately, there'll be links to my sites and to my books, my albums, all the good stuff down below. And if you're saying, well, how do we know if we can trust you? I'm going to leave you on a quote from one of my favorite characters from fiction is, "You can trust me if you like, but where's the fun in that?" Until next time, peace and blessings.